Hello, 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 everybody. My name is Haley, and welcome to Cupixel Studio. We are live, and today we are going to be drawing an eye. So, don't be discouraged if you don't get this end result at the end of this, because I did project a photo for this eye. So this is based on a photo. We're going to be doing it free-handed today, and it is a lot easier than you would expect. If you are a beginner or you're not very used to drawing, this is a really cool experience because I think you'll learn a lot indirectly and how to build just simple shapes and transform it into something that looks realistic. So you'll learn a lot of like drawing techniques and no pun intended, but this will kind of train your eye. That's me trying to wink. Shut up. Don't mention it. Don't even talk about it. Let's move on. Okay. Yeah, you'll learn a lot of like shading techniques and drawing techniques that you can also learn with the technology, working with the technology. But with this, we're kind of challenging ourselves. So excited to share this with you all today. I went ahead and just kind of sketched out the steps. So this should be about 8 steps, fairly quick, but I'll take it slow. I'll break it down by steps. So after each step, I'll give you some time to, catch up and follow along, and then we will move on to the next one. So I'll walk you through what materials I'm going to be using and then talk about what materials you can use, and then we will jump right in. But first and foremost, I am joined by none other than Nick Acevedo on the cameras. Yeah. Yeah. Huh? Oh, we in here. Okay. Oh, so we here. Okay. So it's just us. Alad was supposed to join us. Alad, if you're watching, shame on you. Don't fire me, though. I really like this job. So it's just us two today. Let's get into it. For materials, I am using just a basic square sheet of paper. This is the drawing surface from the greeting card set. Does not mean you have to use this drawing surface. Any paper will do. I prefer something that has a little bit of a texture to it, a bit of a roughness, because that is great for blending and shading. So I just have a regular pencil, an HB pencil. If you don't have HB, you can use like a number 2 pencil, any basic pencil you might have. I have a blending tool here that we'll use a little bit. I have an eraser because mistakes happen, and I have a pencil sharpener nearby in case I need to freshen up my pencil. What else? That's it, I think, right? That's all we need. So if you don't have a blending tool, by the way, you can use your finger, but the thing is, we have oil in our fingers, and that could down the line interfere with your artwork. But if you have nothing else, you could use that. If you have a Q-tip or a cotton swab, those work well. But these are really great. You can get these for really, really cheap, and they're just a game changer, in my opinion. Okay, I think the only other thing I have to mention, it's been a while since we did a live. I am on Spaces right now. I'm monitoring Spaces, so in between each step, I'll check in and see if anyone's posted their progress or commented something on the photo that I just posted literally 4 minutes ago. So we can interact in real time there. I'll be checking that, and if you have any questions, for technical support or really anything in general outside of Spaces, you can tap the question mark icon at the top. This would be the right? Top right of your screen. Okay, let's get into it. So for the first step, we're just going to draw a basic circle. So I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of my paper. Take it slow, kind of like sketch it out. If you want, you can trace something circular like a bottle cap or a cup or something, depending on how big or how small you want your eye to be. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm happy with that circle. Oops. Did I move it back to center? Yeah. We're good? Okay, awesome. So for this next part, we are just going to find halfway. We're going to cut it with a line going across. And you want it to be kind of like same length on each side of the circle. So right about there. I would say probably about the length of the line within the eye, more or less. So that is pretty much the first step. Don't worry about making the line perfectly straight. This is just here to help us map out the eye for the next step. So I will just hold off for just a moment. Let me check spaces. Alad, no. Alad commented. He said, I am watching. You are fired. Okay, well, I guess that concludes our live, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on Indeed or LinkedIn. No, hi, Alad. Hi, Papa. It's just because you were supposed to join us, and then you bailed last minute, but here you are with all the free time in the world to join us on your phone. So I'm a little hurt. I mean, I don't think you can blame me. Don't fire me though, please, Alad, please. I love it here. Okay, so for this next step, if I'm going too fast, let me know. This next step, we are going to connect. We're gonna make two little arcs that connect from each end into the top and the bottom of the circle. So you should have like a little almond shape with a circle in the middle. All right. And so you should have the corners peeking out here. The line should be lined up with these corners. From the inner corner, I'm just going to bring this line down, this same line, just bring it down past the corner and kind of round it off and meet it with this bottom line. So that is the inner corner that we've just made. I'm going to go ahead and just round this part off. So the inner corner of the eye. All right, good. Let me take a moment, check spaces. Still just a lot. Okay. All right. Okay, so for this next step, we're going to start to build the top eyelid. So because we just made this inner corner, I want to smooth this out a little bit. And I want to bring the top and bottom lid, yeah. Top lid, I want to bring it down just a little bit. That top lid will be covering a little bit of the eye, or the pupil and the iris. Just kind of smoothing that out. You can always fix it later on. And then we'll make the crease of the top eyelid. So just from here, follow the shape of your eye. And we have a lid. So before I move on to the next step, I'm going to erase this part that I just went over. So that first arc that we started with on the top lid, just getting rid of that, getting rid of some of the circle we started with. And your eye should look something like this. So I'm just going to go over and darken my lines so you can all see a little bit clearer. How's it showing up on the camera, Nick? It's showing up. It's showing up? Yeah. All right, well. I mean, if you want to darken it, yeah, doesn't hurt. Okay, awesome. So we just made a top lid, so let's go ahead and just make a simple bottom lid. So keep this kind of like in the center and we'll keep it closer So this is, you know, less of a lid and more of just like, you know, the fold underneath your eyes, because your eyes are, you might want to be sitting down for this. Your eyes are round. So eyeballs, can you believe it? So of course your eyes are going to be kind of like, it's going to be protruding a little bit underneath and on top of the eye. So that's why we're just creating this shape here. All right, I'll take another moment just to check spaces, see what's up. And still just a lot firing me. Okay. Say hi. Just say anything you want to say it. Just be nice, please. I'll be checking spaces, and if you have any like technical questions, like I said, tap that question mark at the top right of your screen, and I believe Alad will be answering your questions and relaying them to me if you'd like me to answer them directly. Okay, so for this next part, I am going to make the pupil. So still using this guide, I'm just going to make a smaller circle in the center of the eye. And I know it might not look completely centered, but in terms of where this first circle, because this line in the center, it is perfectly centered, just more room on the bottom half of the eye, the part of the iris that is showing. So after I draw a pupil, I always like to do a little highlight around the pupil, the light reflecting off the eye. So I like to do one there, tiny one on the other side. You can imagine that this person is looking directly at us. And then if you'd like, you can go ahead and shade in the pupil. Just shading it in lightly now, but later on I will apply a little bit more pressure so that it is darker than the rest of my shadows that I'm going to go in with shortly. All right, not going to worry about blending that or anything, but from here, I'm just going to fix this top line. From here, we can slowly start to build the shading. So, you know, add a little bit of depth to our eyes. So what I like to do after I do the pupil is go around the iris and just shade a little bit, darken those edges. I like to do little circular motions as I'm following the shape. So like a little mix of going over my lines and going back and kind of shading in small circular motions. And then up here, because the top lid is casting a shadow on the eye, we're gonna have more shadow up at the top of the iris. I always want to call this the pupil. You know what I mean. If I say pupil, you know what I mean. But it's always going to cast a little bit of a shadow on the iris at the top. And, you know, you can use your imagination with this. I know we're only working with pencil, but if you wanted to, you know, if you have a certain color eye in mind, you know, just think if you are doing like a brown eye or a dark green or something, you would apply a little bit more shading. While on the other hand, with a blue eye or a gray eye or something more light, you would apply less pressure with shading. Going back, and now I'm just kind of shading everywhere within the eye. And towards the bottom, you'll still have a little bit of a darker ring around the iris. But towards the bottom, we'll have mostly very, very light shading. And as we get towards the edges and towards the top, apply a bit more pressure and darken it a little bit more. Okay. So now I'm just darkening my pupil. And I'm just going to leave the highlights as is for now. I will save that for the very end, and you'll see why. All right, we're going to continue shading all over for the next step, but really quick, let me just take a moment, touch base with spaces. All right, that's fine. It's just us. It's just us. That's okay. Keep going. Okay, so similar to how the top lid casts a shadow on the iris, it's going to cast a shadow all over the eye. So, of course, the white of the eye, yes, it is white, but it is still, you know, while it's like white and shiny, it's still going to be, you know, it's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? We have to make it dimensional, right? So we have to add a little bit of shading. So I'm just erasing that line I used to guide me in the very beginning. Go and darken the edges of the iris just a little bit. And now let's do some shading towards the top. So super, super light hand because, you know, this area, even though it is in the shadows, it'll be much lighter than everything else we have going on because this is the white of the eye. So whenever you're drawing anything or you're, you know, trying to make something look realistic with pencil or charcoal or ink or any kind of illustration, you want to find or imagine what the lightest part and the darkest part of the image is, so that when you're working with value, like in pencil, you know, this is just gray, we're working with grayscale essentially, you know that, you know, certain areas have to be darker than other areas because it's not the lightest part of the image, if that makes sense. So everything is, you know, every part that we work on is its own part. You know, it has its own elements, its own techniques, but we also have to look at the bigger picture, or at least imagine the bigger picture when we're working free-handed like this. I'm going to stop after I just add a little bit more depth to the top part of the eye. I added a little bit of shading towards the bottom as well. I think I went a little too dark, so I'm just going to erase just a little bit and go back and just kind of replace very, very lightly what I just took away. Okay, so let's build some shadow in the lids. I'm going to go over my top lid one more time. And because up here is the crease, we will have quite a bit of depth here. So I'm just shading this all in, and the deepest part of the crease in your eye is typically right in the center here. So how weird does this look? Does this look bizarre? Okay. Well, in the center of your eye, you are going to have the most, or the crease of your eye, in the center of your crease. You're going to have the most depth and shadow there. So I'm just applying a little bit more pressure here. But I'm keeping it pretty contained. We don't have to blend all the way out because we're just working on the eye. And then similar to how this is the, you know, the deepest part of the crease, this part on the lid is the highest part. So this area is going to be very light. So I'm going to shade in on the both sides, both edges of the top lid very, very lightly to start. And I'll leave the area right above the iris and pupil. I will leave that. Just kind of shading on the edges just to bring them together. Then I'm going to go back and apply a little bit more pressure towards the inner and outer corner. And kind of extend that along the crease and the lash line. I feel like I'm working in Sephora again. I was talking about the crease and the lash line, and the color of your eyes and how to make them pop. And then a little bit more pressure in the crease there, all over. All right, we'll do the same thing on the bottom. We check spaces. Oh, hi, Gigi. Thank you for joining us. Gigi said she was late. So for the first 15 minutes that you missed, really quick for you, Gigi, I will show you everything that you've missed. So can we see, Nick? Can we see clearly? Okay. So we started by mapping out the eye. We just did a circle for the iris, and we did a line cutting through the middle horizontally. So, you know, the two sides more or less should be the same length as the circle here. Length, you know what I'm trying to say. Width, it's a circle. Then we connected those lines, made like a little almond shape for the shape of the eye itself. We rounded out with an inner corner. We did some lids on the top and the bottom, added our pupil and highlights, and now we're just, you know, really bringing it to life with shading. So I won't go through everything in depth that we did, but this experience, this live experience will be on demand very, very soon. So once we kind of, you know, clean it up a little bit, it'll be ready for you on the app on demand in the, probably the sketching section, right? It would be in the sketching section so you can catch up on everything that you've missed. But thank you for joining us, and thank you for checking in with us on Spaces. I appreciate you. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. For the bottom part of the lid, same idea. We just want to shade in this part just slightly. It's not as defined as the top lid, so just a little bit is good. Kind of extend it to the inner corner if you'd like. Shade around the inner corner just a little bit. And then we can add just like a little bit of shading, not nearly as much as we did up here, but a little bit around the edges. Very light hand, and keeping this part here clean. Okay, and then for the inner corner, just shade it in. Add another little line there if you'd like. Because that's not the star of the show, so it's okay. Okay, so before I add my details, which would be, you know, defining the highlights and adding some eyelashes, I am going to do some blending. So I'm going to grab my smudge stick here, and I'm just going to start and, you know, work in certain areas. So I'm going to start actually from the lightest areas, so the areas with very light shading, then make my way to the darker areas like the pupil, because with the blending tool, you know, if you pick up the pencil, you know, the pigment, and you put it elsewhere, you know, it could just end up being a little bit darker than you wanted it to be. So I'm going to start by shading in the white of the eyes. And I always like to start by blending out the darkest parts and then kind of move that pigment slowly and gradually to the lighter parts. I will definitely be erasing some of this in the center to bring back that white. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well.
Still sleepy?
Really exciting.
This is exciting?
Yeah.
What, seeing it come together?
Yeah, just the beginning instructions were so like simple.
Yeah.
And it would definitely lead to something close to this.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
sometimes
I think so. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot simpler than you'd think. So hearing that, you know, coming from you, it's pretty cool. I just erased a little bit in the white of the eye. Now I'm just blending it out one more time. Cool. All right. Now I am going to make my way up here to the top eyelid. I'm just going to start by blending in the lid itself, moving this pigment towards the center. Gradually get lighter and lighter and lighter. I'm going to stop myself right above the pupil and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so you see how it just kind of softens our marks, but also becomes, you know, to look a little bit more rounded and dimensional because we have that highlight in the center and the darkest parts towards the outer corners. Now that that is done, I'm gonna blend in the crease. Kind of just blend it out a little bit as well, out and up and out, whatever. All right, let's do the same thing on the bottom. I should have shaded in the bottom lid earlier because it is a lot lighter than the top lid, but that's okay. I will erase if I need to. So with blending, it is pretty straightforward. I'm just realizing I don't think I created or gave a very thorough explanation to how I'm blending, but just going right on your marks and kind of, I like to follow the direction of the marks that I made so that it's a smooth blend, and also that way kind of follow the shape of what we are creating as well so that the shadows are blending in the right direction. And similar with shading with a pencil, I like to, you know, just kind of switch direction a little bit here and there once everything's kind of blended out nice and soft. Do little circular motions, then some back and forth following the shape of what I'm working on. Pretty straightforward. So right off the bat, before I move on, I want to continue to lighten the white of the eyes because I don't want it to be the same shade as the eyelids. And in fact, I am going to shade in just a little bit in the center up here so that it's not the whitest white. Same thing down here. Keeping my erasing just in the center, not going near the edges or anything. Going back and blending. A little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to blend the iris. Really just start right on the edges. And focusing on the top where it's darkest. And bringing that down towards the bottom and center of the iris. I'm just shading around the highlights as well because I don't want those lines to be too harsh or apparent. I want it to be nice and soft like everything else. I'm going to go back in and just darken the shadow right at the top of the iris and then also darken the pupil a little bit. And then my favorite part, I'll show you a cool trick for creating very realistic irises with your eraser. Very simple. By the way, we are just using one pencil, so that's why it's, we're focusing on just the pressure, the amount of pressure that we're using to shade. But if you have like, this is an HB pencil, so if you have B pencils, so 2B all the way to like, I think it goes to 8, 10B, the further down the spectrum you go, the darker the pencil gets, the softer the graphite and the darker your marks are. While on the other end of the spectrum, H pencils, 2H all the way to, I believe, 8 or 10H, those are hard, so you won't have as soft as a mark, you won't have as dark as a mark, it'll be more defined, more contained, more light. So that's why we're just adding more pressure when we're working in darker areas. You don't need all of those pencils, but they definitely help if you're working on something, hyper, oh my gosh, a lot is getting in my head, hyper realistic. Okay, going back and blending that a little bit more. And then for my favorite little trick, take your eraser, and if you have a square rectangular one like this, try to use one at the edges. And just go along the pupil, kind of changing the angle ever so often as you go to create those little texture details in the iris. Of course, mostly down towards the bottom and the sides. But it's like such a simple technique, and the end result is like insane. I love it. But now I'm gonna go and just erase my highlights, make them look a little bit more natural. create another little highlight in the pupil here. Beautiful. All right. And now for the very, very last part, let's make some eyelashes. And I know while everything that we did, it might be simple to you, simpler than you thought, or it might be a little bit more challenging than you thought. I find this part, the eyelashes, to be the most challenging. And the reason for that is it's so simple that it's very easy to mess up, if that makes sense. Eyelashes, when we're younger, we draw eyelashes like, oh look, me practicing. Draw eyelashes like this. And we don't want to do that. We want to create something that's a little bit more, has more of a shape to it, and they overlap and they kind of come out from underneath. So we're going to do like a little curve. So let's start like in the middle. Find that lash line, do like a little curve, and then a curve in the opposite direction. Start with a light hand. If you're nervous, and have them be different lengths, have them overlap. And as you get towards the inner corner, most of the lashes are going to be growing out this way, while towards the outer corner, this way. And then just go over and just add as many or as little as you'd like. Definitely have a few kind of taller than the rest, some that are shorter than the rest, some that kind of come down a little bit more into the eye itself. Let me check spaces here. Okay, so I just checked and oh, awesome. Great screenshot. Art Maker does not have a identifiable username, but that's a great shot. Thank you for that. And I'm so happy that you're loving this tutorial. I'm super excited about it. And that brings me to Alad posted a screenshot from the support. This looks so realistic, but how you're showing it makes it seem simple and doable. Very exciting. Thank you so much. And I hope that it is as simple and as doable as I'm making it seem. But this was a good one. I liked this one. I think it's super informative. And while the technology is great and it can actually really help you learn, I stand by that. It's helped me learn a lot and improve. Having like these classic free-handed tutorials, I think, can be very empowering sometimes, especially if you are convinced that you can't do it. So I appreciate those of you who joined me tonight. Same thing on the bottom, by the way, but much more sparse. Just kind of leaving a little bit of space in between that lash line too. But this is the end result. So this is something that you can get from a photo. This probably took me a good, hour and a half. And something like this that we can do, free-handed without a photo, just from the tops of our heads. You can create something just as strong. Of course, it might look a little incomplete with everything surrounding it, but it's a great practice to just focus on certain features, especially if you want to get into creating realistic portrait drawings or even paintings, and learning about how to transform a simple line drawing into something dimensional, three-dimensional, something that looks real, just with shading and your pencil. So I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to share your final eye artwork on Spaces. Like I said, this experience will be available on demand very, very soon. Nick, how long does that usually take?
I could have it by tomorrow.
Can have it by tomorrow. Well, if we want it tomorrow, then you can get it tomorrow. So, you know, check back in if you missed, you know, the first half, or if you just want to try it again with the same instructions. You will see that on demand tomorrow. So thank you all so much for joining me. It is past my bedtime, so I must go, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.